So, folks, we find ourselves once again on the precipice of madness, and by that, of course, I mean we are about to dive in to part two of Whatifalthist. And boy, howdy, I, I think if I recall correctly, because we covered this about a week ago, in part one, he said that the Civil War was essentially being delayed because of cell phones and Gen Z. I might have that incorrect, but by and large, he's trying to argue that the reason there hasn't been a a second American Civil War is because those dang kids and their cell phones. He says is also a dang kid. But yeah, let's jump into this. We're about halfway through.
Andrew Tate, Ben Shapiro, Destiny, Vaush, or Hassan. The only reason I'm still around is I actively avoid you and everything you say. I literally do whatever the opposite of what the internet mob tells me to do, and it works quite well.
Yeah, it works quite well to do whatever is opposite of the internet mob, especially when you're getting paid by, that sweet, sweet corporate think tank cash from your Peter Thiel, adjacent associates.
When I realized that most of the internet would cheer on my death, it radically changed how
No. Drink every time he mentions Mouse Utopia, you will die. Do not do that. Do not do that drinking game. Don't do it. I'm telling you right now, don't do it.
I perceive this entire equation. This all adds together to keep the entire population entranced in a drug-induced spiral with no release or way to organize.
Oh yeah, by the way, he says that cell phones are drugs. So when he says like a drug-induced haze, what he's talking about is cell phones. It's kind of like when Marx was talking about religion being the opiate of the masses, except that he means it very literally that cell phones are drugs.
The average digital person is stuck being constantly stimulated with no resolution or depth. They feel constantly disassociated and as if they're living in a dreamlike state where nothing feels real. The way the digital mob works is that they're incentivized to lead people to the point of violence, but have no ability to organize it.
Now, this is an interesting view of what it means to be an online content creator. Because, as an online content creator, I don't view it as my job to lead people to the brink of violence. That seems very much not my role.
But have you considered adjusts glasses?
I have considered adjusts glasses. Okay, I've considered it quite a bit, and you know what? I think it might be for me sometimes. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Anyway, if you guys don't know who this is, I talk about Whatifalthist quite a bit. As additional background, he has numerous videos where he basically goes over his view of religion in the world, is that there is a scientifically discovered spirit world that the CIA is covering up, and that eugenics is real, and it also determines your economic class. Your genetics determine your economic class, and also that your divine qualities are passed down through bloodlines. So, for example, he believes himself to be in possession of a bloodline of justice, and has also talked about how he has been to both heaven and hell, and talked with I think Thor, and yeah, I think he was talking. He talked to Thor and Jesus, and they both like him, and also he did this on an ayahuasca trip. Odin, sorry, not Thor, Odin. And he is also being brought up in the essentially the incubators designed for Gen Z influencers that are funded by folks like Peter Thiel, Balaji Srinivasan. I've talked about Balaji Srinivasan in particular because he's the author of The Network State. If you guys have been following fascism online for any duration of time, you will have run into the book The Network State. This guy is good friends with Balaji Srinivasan. He's been on his podcast multiple times, and it's basically the two of them in a room together are they are both the epitome of two guys high on their own farts, and it's honestly pretty funny to watch. But this guy, he's fascinating to me because also I want you to keep in mind as we watch he has 736,000 subscribers, and this video has almost 500,000 views. So the reason I talk about him is because he is deliberately being groomed as a next generation conservative influencer. And I find that both fascinating and disturbing. And it's why I feel the need to talk about him. So he's a complete nut, basically. Well, he practices what I call Nazi esotericism, which is essentially this idea of picking and choosing different religious ideas and then throwing it into a gigantic melting pot to synthesize it, synthesize something that is uniquely American/Western and also, enmeshed with politics in a conservative fashion. It's a whole thing. And I consider him to be one of the spearheads the Republican Party is manufacturing in order to basically break down empirical ideas and thought rationality as a concept, right? Because this guy's entire channel is fabricating alternative histories and then just going on and on about predictions that he bases on the alternate histories that he fabricates.
In a nutshell.
It is nonsense, but it is deliberately designed nonsense in order to basically trap, easily influenced conservative children into certain mindsets.
What did you expect? Welcome, Sonny. Make yourself at home. Marry my daughter. You've got to remember that these are just simple farmers. These are people of the land. The common clay of the New West. Morons.
It's true. Blazing Saddles. Great film. All right, back into this. And Sake Tanuki, 10,000% that. Thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
That's why these pundits keep on saying it's okay to kill people, but then the murders are caused by lone gunmen, since the internet has radically made the mouse utopia atomization worse.
Also, if you do design a drinking game around his videos, I wasn't kidding about the mouse utopia thing being deadly. Don't, if you are going to play that game, don't do it with alcohol, friends.
The second element here that I didn't model correctly was how well wokeness would work, even among the right. I can see that the right was—
oh no, wokeness was too effective. It was the cell phones and wokeness. People were too awake.
Pushing back against the left in the last few years. Elon buying Twitter was really a tipping point here. However, what I've found is that the new right is by and large similar to the left in general psychology. It's also important to say that the left comes with all of these implicit—
all right, wait a minute. We gotta break this one down. All right, we are in a reality war. Wait a minute. A reality war? I think he means an info war.
Assumptions like equality or—
what if Alt Jones? I see. All right, the left and the right are fundamentally different religions with different views of reality. And again, this is what I mean. Like right off the bat, like the right and the left are different religions. They're not religions. They're political ideologies. Very different. I saw that joke coming and still laughed. I'm sorry. The left. Humans are perfectible 2, good people in power can save the world. 3, the future is all progress. 4, the only real things are materially what you can see. Okay, wait. Humans are perfectible. Yes, you can. People can improve themselves. Yes, that is observably true. 2, good people in power can save the world. And when power is used well, good things can happen. Okay. 3, the future is all progress. That's not true. The left doesn't believe that the future is inevitably progressive. Maybe some children might believe that, but not adults. It's why you have to mobilize and fight for things to get better, right? It's why you have to join your local Dems and your local DSA. And we can help you do that over on our Discord. Reach out to us. Just type exclamation Discord in any of the chats, exclamation point Discord in any of the chats, and you'll get a link to our Discord. Reach out to GamerG for help with your DSA. Reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Dems. Get involved. We want you to get involved because more people being involved is more people in the fight for progress. 4, the only real things are materially what you see. No. Material reality encompasses things that you can measure. It's measurable reality. Like, it's not just what you can see, it's also, the forces that you can't see. This isn't that complicated, but I feel like, especially having been now on the line and talking to a lot of conservatives, there was someone on the show last time who literally did not believe material reality existed. And, so I feel like I kind of have to specify that, like, yeah, there are some things in material reality that you can't see with your eyeballs, but are still real. Like, you can't see my voice right now, but you can experience my voice, and that voice is made possible by, air coming out of my lungs and my vocal cords vibrating, and those are measurable phenomena. And, like, I just feel the need to be able to specify that because I know some people from the Whatifalthist community might eventually see this and, they're not going to bring their best. 5, inequality comes from oppression. I mean, oppression is one vector for inequality, yeah. But it's not the sole vector for, oppression. 6, everyone is a blank slate, which are socialized. I mean, I think the philosophical question about whether or not people are blank slates or not is relatively irrelevant, right? Because whether or not you believe people are born tabula rasa, like, we do know verifiably that people can improve themselves. Even if someone is born, naturally evil or whatever he's trying to posit here, we know people can improve themselves. It's not like you can, in fact, become a good person if you work at it. This is all killing me inside, though, to have to point out. 7, cultural differences are arbitrary and can easily be transcended. Cultural differences are by and large arbitrary, and I would just say can be transcended, but I wouldn't say can be easily transcended. We know the phenomenon culture shock, because adjusting to a new culture can be difficult.
What is the difference between religious metasystems and political metasystems?
I feel like this is a question that's supposed to be a joke in some kind of philosophy course. But thank you for the $10 super chat. A religious metasystems walks into a bar. Says ow. Alright. That being said, I guess that you could quibble about cultural differences being arbitrary and more being related to, like, the physicality of someone, like civilizations, like geography or something, but, like, whatever, it's arbitrary, and yeah, you can learn to exist in a different in a different cultural system. Yeah, you can definitely do that. 8, tradition holds us back. This is interesting because I wouldn't say tradition holds people back. My family is Swedish, right? Like very Swedish and very much, like we like our little red painted horses. We like our little stories about forest spirits, the tomtes. We like we like our little cultural touchstones. We like making our Swedish meatballs. We like doing our little food stuffs. But like none of those things prevent me from being like a modern human being with like a progressive moral values. How are your meatballs? My meatballs are excellent. This is a straw man script he made. That's the thing. All of his scripts are straw man scripts, but it's worse than a straw man because it's like, made by a guy who's only ever heard of straw men described. He's only heard of them second or third hand, and he's doing his best. All right, 9. It's wrong to judge someone by their results. I genuinely don't know what he means by this one. It's wrong to judge someone by their results. Does he mean by their actions? Who can say? No idea. 10. You have loyalty to all humanity, not your people. Like, I've never heard of that being a leftist value. Unless he's talking about just like you should care about other people. Like, hey, if you're a white person, you should care about seeing like a black person who's in distress and you should help them. Like, yeah, I think you should reach across like racial, cultural, and religious lines to help people in need. I didn't realize this was a leftist value, especially considering, the folks on the right embrace Christianity and there's a whole like parable about like the Good Samaritan or what have you. But whatever. Doesn't matter. Whatever. It's his racism showing. Absolutely. Now, as for the right stands for humans being inherently flawed. Wait, I also just want to point out the left and the right are fundamentally different religions with different views of reality. On these first points, these aren't contradicting. Humans are perfectible and humans are inherently flawed. Those aren't contradictions. Like if humans are flawed, you can still make them better. Like what do you okay. Over on the right, power corrupts, which again is not contradictory to what the left believes. This is weird. All right. 3, it's possible to degrade back to barbarism. Okay, well, this is correct. It is possible to degrade back to barbarism, but also his initial stating that like the left believes that the future is all progress, that's just a straw man that isn't actually accurate whatsoever. It's vibe coding, but for racist ideology. That's the best description of this I've heard yet. Number 4, there is a God. I guess, which is meant to be the opposite of the only real things are materially what you see, I guess. 5, inequality is normal. 6, races, classes, and the sexes are genetically different. I really want him to elaborate on how he believes class is related to your genetics. I really want him to elaborate on that because, like, I can understand his argument for the other ones, even if, of course, race has nothing to do with genetics whatsoever, because race is not the same thing as your skin color. Like, race is a social construct developed to support, phrenology and scientific racism and the transatlantic slave trade. But I want to know what class genetics are, I guess. 7, cultural differences are important. Wait. Cultural differences can both be arbitrary and important. I'm assuming perfectible as in capable of reaching perfection. Okay, but like, if that's what we assume he means by this, I have never heard a leftist talk about, people being able to reach a level of perfect existence. I have never heard a leftist talk about that whatsoever. So like, I guess I'm kind of like, if I give it the most reasonable interpretation that like human beings are, you can improve, you like self-improvement is a thing, then like, sure, I'll agree with that. But like, if it's the idea that like the left believes in creating perfect individuals, that's just insane. That's just an insane straw man. It's a straw god. 8, tradition is valuable even if we don't understand why. If it's valuable but you don't understand why, then how can you truly value it? Right? Like if you believe something is valuable, you should be able to explain why it's valuable, right? Whether it is, the provenance of a painting, or the like, hey, why is that trinket you carry so valuable to you? Oh, it's because it has the picture of my grandma in it. Or, oh, it's because it's made out of the world's largest diamond ever discovered, and I stole it in a heist. Like, you should be able to explain why something is valuable. Like, for example, to a lot of you, this is just a used scrunchie, and it's not valuable at all. But to a select few of you, it'd be valuable because this is the original corpse of Dr. Softhole, the poorly conceived and implemented device that I use to try and illustrate the dangers of AI. That's right. Dr. Softhole's corpse has just been sitting right here underneath this monitor the entire time. And now you guys inherently see this scrunchie as more valuable than if it was just a random scrunchie I had on me. Like this one, which is virtually indistinguishable. And yet, this one is much more interesting to you because you have a reason to value it more now. Dr. Softhole lives? No, Dr. Softhole is still dead. This is an unalive corpse. All right? That feels like a corpse now. It is. Who the fuck is Dr. Softhole? Again, I was trying to explain why AI large language models are dangerous from a psychological perspective. And in order to do that, I held up a scrunchie. And that scrunchie, I said, this isn't a scrunchie anymore. Its name is Dr. Softhole. Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Softhole. And I love you. And then I, flicked it away and told chat that Dr. Softhole was now dead and you would never see her again. And, I think bringing back the defiled corpse of Dr. Softhole in order to make a further point is exactly what Dr. Softhole would have wanted. And I do want to say I do apologize for choosing that particular name because the community has just continued to keep it alive. Anyway, 10, you have loyalty to your group over others. Oh boy, I can't wait until Whatifalthist starts describing how the next American Civil War is going to be a race war. Oh, I'm calling it right now. That's the direction this is all going.
Or these very feminine mindsets that...
Yeah, chat, you and your feminine mindsets. Where you been? The Biden
Dr.
feminization
Softhole
camps?
Sounds like a role from role-playing in the bedroom.
You're not wrong. And it does sound specifically like the kind of role-playing in the bedroom that might be loosely based off of James Bond. You got your Pussy Galore, you got your Dr. Softhole. It fits.
Would not exist in another era of history and make Mouse Utopia more difficult to deal with.
Oh god, I forgot the text wall. You know, I need glasses. Socket Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Cluvius,
I
thank you for the
ship
$5
Dr.
dono.
Softhole with Dr. Mr. Cody's ex-wife, Mr. Maskey.
Heh. For an example of a society which hit similar mouse utopia-like events, but had a very different cultural context which informed their own history, we can look to the fall of the Roman Republic. Gee whiz, no one's ever compared America to the fall of Rome before. Huh, I'm very original. This was a warrior, masculine, pagan society, which did not have the Christian notions of loving the meek, equality, or kindness being good. The Roman Republic was similar to America for being a republic that rose to be the hegemon of the known world. What occurred was a process of globalization, which even threatened Roman culture, radical income inequality, and the rise of oppressive slave megacorporations, political polarization with civil wars, as Rome ultimately lost the Republic to Caesarism. There were further parallels like feminism, mob politics stemming from nearly all men being able to vote. Oh god. Sexual or moral degeneracy, atheism, and collapsing birth rates. I always wondered why Roman authors treated this time period as an existential threat to survival, given Rome had no real rivals. Then I realized Rome only narrowly avoided mouse utopia. Of course! Rome had the same issues as us, but due to their warrior hierarchical culture, we're able to put things back together in a way we weren't. That's right, because we're all mice when you really think about it. This explains why I felt a lot of strange feelings watching The Secret of Nim growing up.
Because all of those things push towards the behavioral sink. I want to make this video.
But Rome fell? No. I understand the idea here that, like, but Rome fell though. His point would be that the Roman Republic was going to be a mouse utopia, but then the great and, you know, beneficent Caesar seized power as a, you know, authoritarian dictator and set things to right by getting rid of all of that ancient Roman feminism. And also, then it was only much, much later that it all fell, you know, due to the moral degeneracy and such, you know, after it adopted Christianity. And like it's nonsense. It's fucking nonsense. It is as nonsense as people looking for parallels, like numerological parallels within the Bible. It's chud slop is what it is.
A sort of skeleton key for the next series of videos I'm making, where I also need to make a video on the new right with its core issues. The right has proven itself to be profoundly pathetic in a way that I didn't think was even possible. I was operating under the assumption that the right would start to process the left as an existential threat once Trump was elected, since they clearly are. You could look to Europe, the other Anglo diasporas like Canada or Australia, as well as even Brazil or the rest of the world, to see that if the left is allowed even a little bit more power, they will jail their opposition and crack down on the right, carrying out the demographic suicide of the Western world.
Jesus Christ. So, yeah, his theory is that if the left gets any power whatsoever, leftists will move quickly to ensure the demographic suicide. Now, what do you think he means by that? I just want to... Chat, what do you think he means by the demographic suicide of the West? Remember when I told you he practices Nazi esotericism? Bingo, Snoogan! When he talks about the demographic suicide of the West, he means, oh no, more black and brown people might live in places that used to be predominantly white. Oh no! And I just have to say, anyone who thinks like this, you're just a fucking racist. You're like, I'm sorry, you're just a racist. If the idea of like, oh no, but what if my son or daughter one day takes up with a non-white person? Like, you're a racist. But what about it in future generations? What if there are no longer any white people? It's like, okay, because your future grandkids or great grandkids decided to like not also date and marry white people? Like, Like, if you're so against race mixing that you're like, we need to fix the demographic suicide of the West because there's too much race mixing going on, you understand you're a fucking gutter racist, right? Like, that's like you there's no daylight between your position and the position of someone in the Ku Klux Klan. His voice is annoying, yeah.
We see these trends even within America, and the right said that when Trump was elected, they were aware of these dangers. Trump was able to form a coalition with RFK and Elon that bridged everyone except the left.
You know, one would think that this might be like, when you're able to put this together, you're like, ah, yes, what saved, Donald Trump's bacon in 2024? Well, you had the GOP colluding with big tech, and then the granola fascists that wanted RFK Jr., right? And it's weird to me that when you're talking, like, okay, well, the GOP is one political group. Dissident Democrats, I suppose you could say, would be another political group. But when you just say tech, all that really means is businessmen, right? Because when you're talking about tech and you show a picture of Elon Musk, like, Elon Musk isn't designing the technology. He's not coding shit. It's business people. Like, you're not talking about the software developer demographic. You're talking about fucking business people. And it just kind of seems to be like you're straight up just saying this is an unholy alliance between, fascist agnostics, the open fascists in MAGA, and big tech billionaires, which kind of just seems to me like straight up fascism, an alliance between the state and corporate systems. But, whatever. No, surely it's some other problem.
After that, none of these variables held together. Trump is starting Middle Eastern wars while alienating his support base among the right-wing youth, since they voted for him to help on the domestic issues that they're really hurting with, which he has not really helped with. I'm not forgetting all of the positive things Trump has done so far, and I'm still grateful, but
How would
Still
Elon
grateful.
have time to develop tech when he's spending his time begging Epstein to hang out on the Pt2 island?
Well, that's true. We also know that he was deeply involved in paying people to cheat on video games for him so he could look cool while pretending to be president of the United States for a bit. Also, Sake, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs, and yeah. I don't know, it just kind of seems like maybe the things that are alienating about the MAGA movement should be of more concern to people who are MAGA. Kind of seems like, oh yeah, what does MAGA care about? The Epstein files and, like, what else? Making America great again, not being humiliated on the world stage, making things cheaper, etc. Oh wait, Donald Trump hasn't delivered any of that. But I'm still grateful. Fuck you, dude. Like, goddamn, not a single MAGA influencer has an ounce of self-respect. Not an ounce.
most of the young conservatives I know are turning on the regime. I've heard about plenty who are going to vote for the left, since they hope that the left will just cause total social collapse to speed this up, which I think is a terrible idea. The baby boomers, and this still includes the conservatives, seem totally unwilling to accept the scale of the issues. This is a huge problem, which I could also make into a video, but the boomers are totally willing to ignore the demographic future.
Can I just say, I love this weird little clip that he used from Chile of 3 protesters with like flaming sticks just walking slowly to a line of police officers, and it's like, oh no, truly society is collapsing. Three children and some dogs are marching at the police. How will they survive?
Marxists to speed this up, which I think is a terrible idea. The baby boomers, and this still includes the conservatives, seem totally unwilling to accept the scale of the issues. This is a huge problem, which I could also make into a video, but the boomers are totally willing to ignore the demographic future extinction of their societies, and that's not an exaggeration from the statistics.
Where were all you guys during Biden? I was making content. I was doing exactly what I'm doing now, critiquing the people in power.
How the vast majority of Americans live in de facto poverty, how AI is about to get rid of millions of jobs, mass immigration.
Man, I love this idea, this talking point that's just been internalized by conservatives and punditry alike. Oh, AI is gonna replace millions of jobs, guys. Guys, I promise. I promise, guys. It's all gonna pay off. It's all gonna pay off. Ford hired AI and sacked humans. It backfired badly. Let's take a look. How did it backfire? The US automaker hired over 350 veteran engineers, referred to internally as graybeards, over the past 3 years in order to address mistakes made by automated systems. The staff will lead quality reviews after the automation issues cost the company billions of dollars, Bloomberg reported, while some workers will also help improve and train the AI systems. We've been relying more and more on automated quality systems and not getting the desired results, said Kumar Galhotra, Ford's chief operating officer. We brought back technical specialists and they hunt for failure points before a part ever reaches the plant floor. And just like, you fired thousands of people in order to replace them with AI, and then it cost you billions of dollars, at which point you said, oh wait, let's continue using this AI though. We'll just bring these guys back. It's just like, it's all a fucking clown show, guys. It's all a fucking clown show. Look at this. Concerns on Wall Street about the ultimate return on investment from the AI boom have flared up again in recent weeks. Each of the 6 firms with the biggest lease commitments saw their shares decline in June. Oracle was the biggest loser, falling 35% over the month. But for most in the tech industry, the risks of overspending are dwarfed by those of missing out on the AI boom. Here's how Oracle puts it. To grow our OCI business, which requires increased computing capacity, we must incur significant capital and operating expenditures. Which is, I want to point out here, bullshit. Because guess what? These AI companies have put out papers basically saying these problems are just inherent to large language model computing in the first place. Like, we can't get around them. There is a mathematical limitation to them. They're gonna keep costing these companies billions of dollars. Like, just the idea that, oh, it's all so successful.
But they don't have anyone
it's all so successful, like, don't worry about it, is just not true.
Insane costs of housing, and dozens of other issues. Trump starting a war in the Middle East proves that he thinks that these are issues that can be dealt with by good PR, but they're not. These are very deep, intractable issues that will totally destroy America within a few years.
Don't you think the consolidation of jobs by AI is a direct correlation to the plummeting birth rate? No.
Years, if not fixed. The clock is already ticking, since if the left gets the presidency once again, they can use it to erode the organic spirit of America enough just to break our will as a nation. A lot of the boomer cons basically have the same worldview as leftists, and it's remarkable how so many boomer—
I guess to elaborate on that real quick, I don't think the consolidation of jobs by AI is a direct correlation to the plummeting birth rate, in part because corporations would be trying to cut costs on human labor, regardless of whether or not there was a birth rate going down situation. Like, the single biggest cost to almost any company is, like, human labor. So, a company puts profit above all else. It makes perfect sense that they would do everything in their power to invest in a system that basically allows them to fire all of the human employees that work for them and then just basically have a money-making machine. It's not going to work like that, obviously, but they all are sold that dream and that vision of that's how it works. And they want to be the first company to crack that code so they can effectively have infinite money. And if that sounds like a crazy pipe dream that'll never come to fruition, congratulations, you have critical thinking skills.
Conservatives in the Senate will openly not block the left on things like voter ID, not stopping immigration, or not taking wokeness seriously.
If you consume culture from the baby boomers we're young, it is just insanely degenerate and short-sighted. I was listening to classic rock and heard the song Your Love, which is a guy bragging about cheating on his friend's girlfriend and just using her as a sex object. I love rock and roll, or Brown Sugar are about adults having sex with minors. Boomer culture had all of these lines like, too much is never enough, which is what a cancer says, as well as, if it feels good, do it, or great is good. There was so much universal prosperity at the time that the baby boomers didn't even think about this. It was just the culture that they lived in. While they were totally certain that this would last forever, it was a new normal. There's a scene in the movie Animal House where they trashed their school's graduation ceremony for no reason while facing no consequences. This is beyond obvious if you watch culture from the time, and they'd even stated in intellectual or academic books written at the time. It's remarkable how staggeringly foolish, cruel, and arrogant it is. As a Zoomer, I'm deeply resentful that they have destroyed all of this prosperity, while it's unforgivable that they have the gall to pretend to be morally upright and hardworking. I can literally watch the things they said as youth, where it was the exact opposite. Holy shit. What's so funny to me? The idea that, like, well, I see people in these news clips from the 1970s saying one thing, but now I see old people saying another thing. Clearly, they must all be the same person and therefore full of shit. And it's just like, well, you're not talking to the same person, first of all. Second of all, Animal House wasn't a fucking documentary, dog. It was a feel-good comedy. Number 3, yeah, it was fucked up that a lot of rock and roll songs talked about having sex with children. That was pretty fucked up. And it was also really fucked up that for a very long time, even up through and including my lifetime, adult men have fetishized children. I do want to point out, for the umpteenth time, that the most visited Reddit subreddit for the longest time was r/jailbait, a subreddit dedicated to posting sexy pictures and videos of underage girls. That was one of the most visited places on Reddit for years. I want to point out that when I was a teenager, they had countdown clocks for when different child actresses would hit the age of 18. It's pretty fucked up. It's pretty messed up. Or, hey, you don't even have to go that deep. You can look at, like, the plot of How I Met Your Mother, and how one of the characters, his defining character trait, is hooking up with 18-year-old girls, which is pretty weird. You know, now that I'm the same age as the people in that show at the time, pretty fucking weird if I knew a 30-plus-year-old man trying to hook up with 18-year-olds. That's really fucking gross. But it's incredible how common a lot of this was. And I will agree with Rudyard on that point. Critical agreement, all right? But I also do think it's very funny that he's anti-rock and roll music, just generally. Because a lot of it isn't, in fact, about having sex with children. Just as an FYI, if you've never listened to rock and roll music in your lives, it's not all about having sex with children.
I think the baby boomers got offered the deal when they were young that they'd never have to inconvenience themselves in the slightest for the greater good, and they pulled out that promise for the young. When I was growing up, the main messaging was abuse from the left for my skin and genitals, so we never got offered that post-war deal. Now the
What?
For my skin and genitals, so we never got offered that post-war deal.
I'm sorry.
Promise for the young. When I was growing up, the main messaging was abuse from the left for my skin and genitals. So
when you were growing up, the main abuse from the left was that you were white and a man. The fuck are you talking about?
We never got offered that post-war deal. Now the boomers are trying to pretend that they've always been good, upright Victorians.
So, oh my god, another text wall, dude. Another text wall. God. Oh, DU3VV, I can guarantee you AI is not a component of making our lives better 30 years from now. Why does this guy... Wait, why does it sound like this guy is blaming leftist baby boomers for his issues? Because he's delusional. I find the gaslighting involved here as reprehensible as the actual actions. The baby boomers clearly did betray their own societies, but if they were only willing to acknowledge the issues the society had, that would make things so much easier for the people trying to fix this. What the regime is doing is trying to argue that the world hasn't changed at all since 2008, being totally unwilling to even accept that any of the changes since are real. The thing is that as a 24-year-old, I've never experienced the world that they claim is still here. My lived experience is reflective of things they won't acknowledge at all. The boomers seem to be trying to keep the society on life support until they die so they won't have to worry about it, not thinking at all about the people who die soon. In a society as weak and conformist as ours, what this does is trap the entire society in a state of confusion and ennui. People are willing to deny or cope about the serious issues since the regime won't acknowledge them. This creates a truly enormous amount of mental illness since most people need the society and their elites to tell them the truth to orient their lives. Most people live in groups who need shared consensus reality to start families, companies, make art, or anything. What the boomers have done here is radically hobble everyone else's attempts to maintain sanity and fix these underlying issues since they're too lazy to admit it all. It's just like, what? This is the most black... Like, if I had to devastatingly critique this text wall, it would be that this would be completely in keeping with like a 12-year-old's post on Tumblr. Their first post about how, you know, the world is politically screwed and why even bother. Like, this would just be like Babby's first political post.
So they can turn the young into slaves. It's disgusting, and they seem totally willing to let their country die.
I would also just like to point out that the conservative baby boomers that are in power right now, yes, they would like young people to be slaves. It's why they support the prison industrial complex. It's why they support the concentration camps.
Before they even acknowledge what's going on. At the same time, much of the right-wing youth are super feminine. It's disgusting to watch where they engage in all of this victim behavior. This is not a manly or virile way to live.
The only trouble with calling it black pill content is that he probably believes the left has a pill that turns you black.
No, Sake, you might be right. Okay, first of all, can we get this on the soundboard? Can we get this on the soundboard, please?
Much of the right-wing youth are super feminine. It's disgusting to watch where they engage in all of this victim behavior. This is not a manly or virile way to live.
This is not a manly or virile way to live. We need it on the soundboard. This is not a manly or virile way to live. That sounds like such a fucking, like, ridiculous quote. I love that he says it and that it switches over to this screen in particular, which is like watching, like, genuinely like watching a scene out of the film Looper. They're both looking confused at each other in the same way. Are we sure? Are we sure that Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson aren't the same man? Just in different time spaces?
Going back over the last few years, it's really remarkable how much...
I also, can we just, like, take a moment to talk about how he's critiquing the femininity of victim behavior after he puts up 2 giant-ass text walls about how, actually, the reason everything's fucked up right now is it's all their fault. They victimized us. Like, and then talks about the fucking femininity of victimhood. Like, I can't, I'm dying. I'm dying, guys. My brain cells, they're huddling together for warmth, but like, holy shit.
in any way productive or helpful. If we hypothetically killed all of the Jews...
What the fuck? You know, when I talk about this guy engaging in Nazi esotericism, a lot of you guys sometimes think that I'm being, like, I'm being hyperbolic about that. I'm not. But also, this just came out of fucking nowhere.
It would solve none of the issues I've just mentioned. Even if the Jews created them, which I don't think they did, they've evolved to become variables in their own right.
But, like, the fact that you brought it up at all kind of indicates that you do think that a little bit.
That need to be fixed for what they are.
Oh my god. The reason I say that blaming the Marxists is much more plausible and reasonable than blaming the Jews is that if the death of the modern West was a murder, the Marxists are so obviously guilty. Let me use this examples. I'm speechless.
He showed up to what he thinks is an ideological war so ill-prepared he can't even be bothered to edit out his own near-constant failures in pronouncing simple words. Al C., have you seen the Onion's America documentary? It's perfect.
I haven't, but I've been intending to watch it.
This went from 0 to ludicrous speed faster than Colonel Sanders could pull the emergency brake.
It really, really did. Holy moly. Wow. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs, and Darkane, thank you very much for the $5 tip. Very much appreciated. Y'all make this show possible. Let's tackle yet another text wall. The Marxists have 1. A plan to commit the murder. Look to Yuri Bezmenov, Saul Alinsky, and Gramsci, to name a few, who all openly said they were engaging in Marxist cultural subversion to destroy Western civilization. What are you talking about? Also, I know it should be obvious, but I'm going to point it out anyway, which is that historically the Nazis accused their enemies of being, was it Judeo-Bolsheviks? Essentially, they accused them of being Jewish Marxists who were undermining the Nazi Reich, right? And, like, here, he's just saying they're Marxists first, and Jews second, if they are Marxist. And it's just like, oh, okay. So you're just flipping the words and thinking nobody's gonna notice. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. 2, the gun. That being the Marxist control of the major bureaucratic institutions such as academia, news media, Hollywood, government, schools, etc. Oh my god. I have heard a lot of anti-Semites say that the Jews control Hollywood. I don't think I've ever heard anyone accuse Marxists of controlling Hollywood. Also, the news media is almost entirely captured by billionaires. Also, the schools aren't teaching Marxism. I know that because I went to a school and I was not taught Marxism. I was taught capitalism. I had 2 AP economics courses in high school. And you know what? We were not taught communism or Marxism. God. All right. Witnesses. Generations of conservative thinkers who predicted this would happen in advanced... This would happen in advanced... Dude, he can't even be bothered to, like, spell check his own shit. Such as James Burnham, Thomas Sowell, Buchanan, etc. Okay, dog. Unironically referencing Thomas Sowell is embarrassing as fuck. A track record of cultural murders in practically every continent, including China, Russia, Cuba, and the softer socialist variants, the European continent. But Scandinavia is doing pretty okay, my dude.
Unrelated, but John Oliver on General Hospital is glorious.
Oh, I would love to play this. I'm gonna watch it after stream is done. but I know that I'm gonna get clapped if I show that. But Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. Appreciate you. Also, just as a FYI, socialism is worker control of the means of production, and China, Russia, Cuba, and the socialist variants in Europe don't really do that. Also, Nocturnal 8999, thank you very much for the 5 gifted memberships. Redeeming some of YouTube's honor in the face of Sake Tanuki's onslaught. Who's Thomas Sowell? Thomas Sowell is a go-to academic for conservatives, in part because basically Thomas Sowell's been writing books his entire life. He's old as dirt, but he's an African American who basically says that African Americans had it better under Jim Crow, and also that the civil rights movement was a mistake. And he has a lot of books that are published, but as an academic, he doesn't get his books peer-reviewed, which I think is interesting. But I would not consider him with a lot of credibility, I would say. Also, Anime Sidekick Gal, thank you for the 20 gifted memberships over on YouTube. Putting up a good fight. Let's go. Yeah, you guys are mixing up Ben Carson and Thomas Sowell. All right, here you go. Confession. The leftists involved openly say that they're Marxist. Cite Marx as an author as say their goal is the death of Western civilization. If this was also just real quick, okay, in case folks don't know this, socialist and communist goal is not the death of any civilization. Like there is no goal to wipe out Western civilization. The goal is to switch one economic system to a different economic system. And that would entail some changes taking place, but it ultimately isn't the death of civilization by any means. And also, again, the idea that, like, to the extent that a civilization exists on the exploitation of workers, yeah, maybe we should change some aspects of our civilization so that, we aren't exploiting, modern day slaves. It'd be pretty cool to live in a world where no one is a slave. It's the emancipation of humanity. Indeed, indeed. If this was a legal case, it would be the most airtight one of all time. Source, I'm a lawyer in my dreams. Odin came to me and told me I was one. I passed the dream bar and everything. This was not done... Wait, I'm sorry. This was not done mostly by Jews with Marxist takeovers occurring in places like Latam, Africa, or East Asia that have none. Statistically, the death of the West was mostly done by white people, often women or Calvinist descendants. Dog. We're getting... Guys, we're getting like Protestant schism tier critiques. Holy shit, Calvinist descendants. I was about to say this broski talks about leftists like tape bros talk about women. Oh, don't you worry, he hates women too. Don't worry about that. He holds a lot of women in disdain. God damn. Also, for those of you who aren't entirely sure about what Calvinism is, unfortunately, it doesn't it doesn't relate to Calvin and Hobbes, a delightful comic strip by Bill Watterson that everyone should enjoy of any age. But it does, however, refer to John Calvin, who was a guy in the 1500s who thought, hey, what if God decides basically everything from the very get-go, and everything is already destined? That's a lot of people said, that's an idea. And then a lot of people said, no, we have free will. And then they fought about it a lot. And so when he talks about Calvinist descendants, he's talking about basically the result of this particular schism. And it's very strange to see pop up here.
Blaming the Marxists would make a lot more sense here, but really, these are issues that need work to fix.
Others talk about women.
Yes, there we go.
They need to be taken seriously, and it's even more gross that there are plenty of young men who would be happy to fix them where not.
What a text wall. Great, you've blamed Israel. What do we do next so we don't all fucking die? I mean, presumably pressure Israel into stopping its wars of aggression and, stopping its genocidal policies.
All of the young right-wing men are this feminine, but they've been blocked from any social mobility by the left. Part of the age of the last men.
I love this idea that all right-wing men are actually super feminine now, according to this guy.
Is undercutting anyone with agency or drive, so we can all drown in the behavioral sink together. It's insane that the only thing the digital youth right seem to care about is the most obnoxious and retarded status games. They constantly take turns shitting on me, and I am one of the very few people who could actually help them. Their top criticism.
The level of delusion on display here is genuinely inspiring. I'm one of the few people who could actually help them, but instead they all call me a crazy nerd and throw their poo at me. It's just like, well, have you considered not being a crazy, hateful loon? That might help you a little bit. He's so humble and self-aware. Yeah.
Of me are that I'm ugly, autistic, and a loser who's not right-wing enough. None of.
Dog, you don't have to put this in the video. You could have cut this. Does make you look good. Also, you're very right-wing. I actually have no idea in what capacity you could be lacking in right-wingness to these people.
That's even true, which means they're really just dumb and spoiled children squawking to make noise. None of this is useful either, and will.
Oh dear. I love, by the way, that this entire video is supposed to be explaining why the Civil War hasn't happened yet. And so far, the reasons that we have are because cell phones are actually drugs, and they have lulled the iPad baby generation of Gen Z into complacency, so they're not willing to go into Civil War. But also, it's because all of the conservative young men are actually feminized already. They just don't even know it yet. It's like a Fist of the North Star scene, except instead of everyone exploding into guts and entrails, they explode into beautiful ladies.
Just allow the left to
Oh god, sorry. The thing I can't forgive about this digital culture of being a petty bitch attacking people in status games for not being attractive or hot enough is that it's just unilaterally negative and antisocial. It reminds me of how one of my friends had his girlfriend post that he was bad in bed online. That sort of thing is the social equivalent of vandalism or theft. This isn't helpful and is in fact the exact opposite, where it totally destroys our social cohesion or seriousness as a movement. It stops anyone from being able to organize or solve issues and makes the youth right appear completely intolerable.
Build enough houses to house almost his insecurities.
I know. Soon his mansion will be complete. His mansion of madness. This isn't helpful, and in fact, the exact opposite, where it totally destroys our social cohesion or seriousness as a movement. It stops anyone from being able to organize or solve issues and makes the youth right appear completely intolerable to older, responsible people who could help us. Also, why is being hot a requirement for intellectual or political figures? That's so staggeringly insane, and people in the 20th century would see that as raw idiocracy and totally petty, plus shallow. I'm not ugly, but even if I was, that would be a totally nonsensical criticism of me, since what I do doesn't require me to be hot. But like, nobody's saying that's a requirement, number one. And number two, the youth right is completely intolerable because they're hateful bigots. Like, this is the other thing, which is that I never feel compelled to attack Whatifalthist on the basis of his appearance, largely because why bother going after that when I have such a rich array of targets in front of me dedicated to his ideas, which are uniformly terrible in an almost fractal-like way. Like, I am perfectly content exploring the bigotry of his ideas and making fun of him for how intolerably stupid and vacuous they are. But yeah, sucks that people make fun of him for being ugly too.
Really destroy society. They clearly have no masculine role models in their life who would show them how to lead, organize, and develop coherent ideas.
Yeah. You know, because the MAGA movement has a lot of figures that are willing to teach young men how to lead and be courteous and, you know, be a good person. Oh, wait. They don't? Oh, wait, they elected a guy who's an alleged rapist? Oh, wait, they elected the guy who is Jeffrey Epstein, the pedophile island guy's best friend for over a decade? Oh, wait, they elected the guy who went on radio and said publicly with his whole chest that he loved walking in on undressed children in his beauty pageants? Wow. Oh, you mean the guy who is was found liable for sexual assault? You mean to tell me that guy's not a good role model for young men? Gee whiz. That's shocking.
Are so weak I don't even take them seriously, since they will bend to any genuine right-wing authority that emerges because they've already done that so many times to various strong men. None of this makes sense unless you assort for one variable. In a rational, reasonable world that follows the rules that we have seen play out over all of human history, you would see people—
What rules? What rules have played out over all of human history? Please list them. You have so many text walls to offer us. I want to know the rules of human history. Please, I want to laugh at them so badly. Today has been a shit show of a politics news day, but like, I give me this one thing and I'll be happy.
Panicking now. The right and the left would be able to watch all of these events occurring and start to realize that this is very, very bad. The fact that they haven't—
Is this Jordan Peterson? This is Gen Z Jordan Peterson.
Means that their nervous systems aren't working. My friend Uberboyo has talked about how leftists have the part of their brain that assorts for threat detection.
Uberboyo? My friend Uberboyo looks like a music YouTuber? Oh, he's also super into Nietzsche and Carl Jung. Oh god, oh god. Guys, the entire generation, when Jordan Peterson started writing about like make your bed and started doing his lectures and started getting big, the children who found his lectures and didn't understand anything that he was talking about and thought he was being real big thinky brain smart, they're all becoming adults now. They've all been trained wrong as a joke. And I think this guy is one of them.
Turned off. I have PTSD, so the exact opposite thing happened to me, which is why I find these people completely incomprehensible. When I realize that these people are pure materialists who can only think through terms of what they can see or touch, it horrified me. I assumed that everyone was capable of looking at the statistical trends or the news, then adding up everything going on to see that this was a very bad situation that just hasn't hit a critical threshold yet. That's always how these historic crises work, where things are stable until they're not, and then
Wow, what a great observation. Things are stable until they're not. He's also really hung up on the idea that, like, some people believe that material reality is all there is and that there isn't, like, a spirit realm He's really upset that people don't believe in a spirit realm sometimes.
The shadow comes pouring out. However, we've never taught people how to think rationally, where most people, and this is exacerbated by the internet, only think through social approval. They also only think in things they can physically see. It then clicked. If I wasn't capable of abstract thought, and I only pieced things together from what I saw, then this reality would appear invincible. Things just work for most people, and they have no concept about why or how they work.
That's not what believing in a material reality means. Like, you can believe in material reality and still understand cause and effect, because cause and effect happens in material reality. What are you talking about? They have people who believe in material reality can't understand why or how things work? Of course they can. It's the entire basis of fucking science.
I then realized that most people see the system of industrial civilization as a sort of god that just works. Questioning it is stupid, since of course it works, and it's even disloyal. That made me realize that we're totally fucked, since the people involved physically cannot understand what I'm trying to convey, since they can't process.
They physically can't understand it. Because this guy's a eugenicist, and he thinks genuinely that the reason people can't understand what he's saying, it couldn't possibly be that what he's saying is flawed. It couldn't possibly be that what he's saying is nonsensical. It must actually be that they physically lack the capability of understanding his words. Ooh, baby. Yeah, Lucy Hayes, exactly. Whomst among us on the left has not been taught to never question anything? Before I found Jordan Peterson, I thought Chaos Dragons were cool. Now I realize they're like women or something. I don't know, it's hard to follow. Okay, but real quick, Chaos Dragons are cool. Put them in your D&D games, you cowards.
Things they can't see. I looked it up, and only about a quarter of the population processes the world in abstract concepts. That made me realize that everyone—
Citation needed. Only about a quarter of the world processes things in abstract concepts. Like, shut the fuck up. That's not true. Like, you need to have abstract concepts in order to function in a human society. If you are incapable of actually having, like, abstract thought, you're basically, like, stuck at being a baby. Because abstract thought is what makes all of our higher order skills possible.
Will just walk into Mouse Utopia without lifting a finger, since only when Mouse Utopia hits a tipping point will they realize how bad it is, and it will already be too late by that point.
We also, just as an FYI, if you needed another hole to poke into this, human beings have a lot more agency than the mice inserted into Mice Utopia. Now, a question I see being asked here, what the fuck is Mouse Utopia? I actually have an entire video going over what this guy thinks Mouse Utopia is. I highly encourage you guys to check that out. But basically, it was a series of experiments run by a guy who had a lot of mental issues, and basically he came to the conclusion that if you put a bunch of lab mice into what he called ideal conditions, and then allowed their societies to progress, eventually they would become too cramped, hit a point of no return on their population, and then that population would crash until they were all dead. And he's saying that human beings are trapped in a large-scale Mouse Utopia, and that we are currently collapsing into our own destruction, right? And it's a very obviously flawed experiment in a number of different ways. One of the number one ways is that it's never been replicated, which is not great. And number two is that, hey, it turns out when you just have a bunch of rats in an enclosed space, eventually the rat population hits a critical mass where they are actually, like, overcrowded. And at the point you achieve overcrowding, that's when, like, behavioral problems start erupting. along with, by the way, massive amounts of inbreeding. So, like that, those two factors, as generations of mice progress, become quite, impactful. So I hope that even if you were to say human being minds are exactly like rat minds, I think it would be pretty obvious to understand that, oh, wait, we're not confined in like a plastic jungle. We could actually just like go and make new communities. We can expand. We can like build new things in our cities. We can do all kinds of things to accommodate our population. It's not actually like that at all. And oh, wait, human beings are actually much more complicated and have much more social flexibility than mice. Oh, that's crazy. Sounds like eugenics. Well, this guy is a eugenicist, so it does make sense.
By that threshold, they'll have already built their entire identity around the system working and will have no other frame. At that point, they'll either give up or they'll die. This is all exactly what happens in the mouse utopia experiment. Calhoun calls it the first death, when the mice lose their soul and inner life before they start killing one another.
Yeah, again, there's another problem with this experiment. Huge amounts of anthropomorphization going on here. It's a very Dr. Softhole situation where Calhoun attributed an awful lot of human characteristics and qualities that he just kind of assumed mice were experiencing, and then pasted on like a human equivalent of what he thought the mice were experiencing. It's not science. It's very much not applicable to really anything, because again, it's also never been replicated.
Stop processing their environment and become empty. Their nervous systems stop working. I have a term.
Did mice auto-destruct because of wokeness? That is actually his argument, yes. They became too gay and degenerate in his argument to survive. And so, because of the mice becoming woke, their civilization died. That is his argument, yeah.
Term called the frost, which is the force of social alienation, which causes people's nervous systems to stop working in mouse utopia. Keep in mind that society mediates us a lot more than—
This is what, my brain is breaking hearing him say, this is what causes—
we thinking in mouse utopia. Keep in mind that society people's nervous systems to stop working in mouse utopia.
This is what causes people's nervous systems to stop working in mouse utopia. We've never seen mouse utopia done with people. Yeah, the mice had social media. Did the mice have the internet? Time for us to run the Calhoun experiments again.
Keep in mind that society mediates us a lot more than we think. So when the other people around us stop mirroring complex emotions, we stop feeling them. Throw on top of this digital addiction, and mouse utopia is literally shutting off our ability to be human or feel on a basic level. We need constant stimuli from people around us so that we can be happy, horny, patriotic, or curious, since those—
happy, horny, loving of America, they're all the same, you know? They're all the same. You just don't understand, chat. You're not operating on my level. Also, Anime Sidekick Gal, I don't know why it didn't read your dono, but thank you for the $10 super chat. So, like, the Lemmings players pressed the Armageddon, and they all just exploded like confetti? Yes. Bingo. You got it.
Things don't really belong to us as individuals, but are archetypes we get from our surroundings. The conclusion I came to is that most people today are not functionally awake. That's the only way to explain their behavior up.
Most people aren't functionally awake, you say. So you're saying they need to get woke because they're all asleep. You know, I'm starting to get a little bit broken here. I don't understand what's happening now.
Go woke, go broke, 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 go woke, go broke.
Did he just lament about how people aren't woke? Yeah, unironically.
to this point. As I'll say further on, it's even more exacerbated on a macro social or political level. The reason that we're willing to do all of these really dumb maneuvers is there's not really anything behind the eyes making decisions. They've offshored their ability to think to the algorithm and social conformity. That's why the other side comes across as deeply mentally ill, since they are, where the only thing that's mediated
Oh, okay. That's why they come across as mentally ill. They are. All the people you dislike, they are mentally ill. Like, that's crazy, dog. That's crazy. All my, you know what? I don't blame any of my haters. They're all mentally ill. That's essentially what he just said there. That's crazy. But also makes perfect sense for a eugenicist to say. You know?
Their behavior is the hive mind. I've developed my own system to avoid this, which I'm going to make a video about soon. Don't worry, I'm here for you and I'm not going to go away soon. What this means is that people are too far gone to be able to realize what's happening or to stop Mouse Utopia. The first death is over. Time for the second. Part 3, the total failure of authority. The core thing that stopped us from having a civil war was the failure of the ties that
God, there are still like 15 minutes of this left. I'm dying.
Stretch from authority to people. There has been a complete severing between the leadership class and the population, thus destroying the ability for any group to be able to militarily organize on a large scale.
Why no read? Why isn't it reading the Nani the fuck? Nani the fuck, why isn't it reading Indeed?
Israel-Gaza war was really important here, where it shattered the coalitions both inside the right and the left. I only realized this looking backwards, since the war never really mattered much to me, but it was the defining event of digital politics for years, frying almost every public figure on the topic. The right is divided between the anti-Semites and the boomer cons, while moderates are sidelined. The reality here is that the mob doesn't want to solve problems, but likes to destroy people, and the Israel-Gaza war was a convenient tool for that, because it's too far away to actually implicate us in being responsible for it. But as a
What? It couldn't be that people have a moral objection to genocide. And it couldn't be that people recognize the foreign policy actions of the United States of America as playing a key role in the unfolding of that genocide. It couldn't be that. No. Also, it's me, Bingo. Thank you very much for the $10 super chat. I'm once again confused at why the audio is not working. Are you happy, horny, and patriotic today? The fascists are. It's me, Bingo. Thank you for the $5 super chat.
Emotionally loaded enough that it can be a useful tool to destroy your rivals. The mob's main desire is the destruction of people, including its own heroes. Mouse Utopia is crabs in the bucket or mate suppression on an industrial scale, so it tracks with everything else we know. For example, if Trump were to
God, mate suppression is such a cursed fucking term. Just absolutely cursed.
Start a war with the left, it's unclear if the right-wing young men would fight for him. The same holds for the DNC and the rabid leftist youth. Every other social authority has failed. Churches have failed at attracting the type of young men who could fight, and the same thing as all of the other public figures. There is literally no cause or organization that could convince people to fight for them, since all the leadership have totally betrayed the young people, leaving them with nothing.
I mean, yeah, that's assuming that people are only going to respond to the upper echelons of leadership in the Democratic Party, you know.
People are aroused. I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
Yeah, people aren't going to go to war for Chuck Schumer, but like they might go to war for Zoran Mamdani. You know, like people like the folks who are fighting for him, and like that's obvious when it comes to the people power that different political figures are able to marshal, right? And so it's like the idea that, oh well, young people wouldn't fight for Chuck Schumer. Yeah, but you can't think of it that way, because like you're gonna have a bunch of people who fight for Zohran Mamdani. You're gonna have a bunch of people who fight for, you know, like AOC or Malat Kiros. You're gonna have like people willing to throw the fuck down for those people, and like it's because they believe in them, right? I don't see anything like that on the right, outside of like people who are fucking weird about Trump.
No work, housing, mate, friends, nation, or belief structure. I was once talking to an older friend who said he didn't like how black-pilled young people are, and I told him young people literally have nothing to do or have rather than be black-pilled. The fact that the mainstream narrative won't acknowledge any of this on any level, still pretending we're in the 20th century, only makes sense through the lens of Mouse Utopia. Power is held together as much by the belief in power than by guns themselves. Even the most brutal regimes in history were only able to hold on to power by being able to appeal to a certain demographic of the population to maintain their right to rule. Saddam Hussein appealed to the Sunnis, and Hitler was popular among most Germans.
Well, that's not true, number one. But also, yeah, people will often make appeals to religion in order to solidify their political power. Yes.
No military force can genuinely hold a population down if the entire public decides to resist. What the boomers have effectively done through eroding faith in the institutions.
Wait a minute. Did you just admit that power comes from the average toiling of everyday working people? That sounds downright Marxist of you.
Socialism is when the government does stuff.
And any higher moral virtues, where the boomers have spent decades attacking patriotism, God, duty, honor, or manhood, is they've removed any force that will stop them from getting murdered in Mouse Utopia. In most industrialized countries, the population is about 90% urban, while around 80% of Americans live near major metropolitan areas. The left has spent years eroding the confidence of the police, so much so that if there were large riots and murders in major cities, that literally no one would stop them. There is nothing that stops mobs from burning down America's largest cities. If the mobs get too big, the police, in many cases, already have orders telling them to not fire on them, and...
Yeah, because, what do you think makes protests angrier and bigger? What do you think causes an entire, like, block to come out of their homes ready to fucking fight cops? Oh, that's right, spraying bullets into a crowd of protesters. Like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, they have orders not to fire so that they don't foment a fucking riot that turns into a revolution.
They're going to give up since the apparatus of law, which is often controlled by the left, will not defend them. It's only a matter of time until a mob realizes...
Can I just say, like, him talking about how the leftist mobs are so violent, well, you have an entire crowd of people marching with their hands up saying, "Hands up, don't shoot." Fuck, man. There's not understanding the material, and then there's whatever this is. Like, you'd think at some point in editing, he'd just be like, maybe not this clip.
This, and America, or the world in general, is a deeply unequal and unhappy...
Yes, also, bro is trying to say that the, proletariat in America controls the American court system and jurisprudence.
happy place. This type of agitation is also a form of social organization that can translate over from the internet very easily, since the internet already makes huge hateful mobs. We can see that this has already occurred in recent years, where enormous left-wing mobs have already launched secession movements in—
Holy shit, dog. He's talking about the Chaz. He's talking about the Chaz. The Chaz in Seattle. Do you guys remember the Chaz? Back in 2020? That's right. Guys, when they declared like a couple blocks like at the Chaz autonomous zone, the Capitol Hill autonomous zone. Oh god, it originally covered 2 intersections. Clearly, a nation capable of challenging the hegemony of the United States of America.
Major cities multiple times. Well, nearly every major American city has already had leftist politically motivated mobs.
Oh my god, I love this idea. I love this idea that this guy is like, anytime a No Kings protest rolls around, this guy is like cowering inside of his home thinking it's the beginning of the race war that he's been predicting. And meanwhile, it's just a bunch of like old grandmas like dancing on the street with like people in frog costumes. Literally, I did that. Last time I went out to protest in my frog costume, I danced with like an 80-year-old man who is standing on the street corner from a nearby nursing home. And this guy is just like, they're all riots, you know. Fuck, these are the biggest piss babies on the planet. Republicans are cowards, dog.
American city has already had leftist politically motivated mobs. The leftist—
Those mobs? Oh no, look at all these mobsters in New York City. Oh no. Look at all these mobsters rioting in the streets, you filthy, filthy mobsters. This is crazy. Do you still have the outfit? Of course I have the outfit.
Spent years eroding the loyalty and discipline of the military, especially so through putting leftists in positions of authority. Wokeness is totally at odds with military life or values, so this causes social atomization or loss of faith in the military as an institution. The young people I've spoken to in the military have recently said that it's deeply demoralized and mentally ill. The government has not done a good job of keeping the soldiers in good morale and motivated. They're young men who are the most abused demographic in the country. This makes it—
yes. Young men, the most abused demographic in the country. Well, yeah, when you join the fucking military, you sign up to be abused. It's literally what your training is. Like, they are breaking you. It is designed to break you and make you obedient. But also, like, young men are not the most oppressed demographic in America. Men control most of the apparatuses of power in the country. Like, what are you talking about, dog? If you're talking about young men are being abused, the question I would posit would be, who's doing the abusing of young men? Because by and large, it's older men.
Hard for me to believe that if you told the military to fire on the mob in major American cities, that they would shoot their own countrymen to defend a regime that couldn't care less about them. It's also deeply unclear if the government wouldn't betray soldiers who were ordered to fire on the mob anyway. This is how revolutions like the Russian or French as examples have started. Once the ruling regime loses the loyalty of the military, who is unwilling to shoot on the mob, the bluff of centralized power totally collapses. The country is—
I love that in his world, it's just like, well, we need to accelerate things until, you know, the military is in a fucking shootout with civilians. It's just like, God, what the hell are you talking about? How did we get here?
already barely holding together. Nothing works anymore. I'm refraining from a 2-minute rant about every single service I've tried to buy in the last few months that no longer works. Not a single industry that I know of in modern America is healthy or functional. They're all utterly dysfunctional, and it's not easy to solve because
I'm so morbidly curious about what all these services he signed up for that no longer works are. I'm so curious. I want to know so bad. Ad, it's an ad. I don't think it's going to be an ad for something, though it would have been like a great lead into one.
Because this is caused by very complex human factors that require an enormous cultural shift to fix. Fixing this requires pulling on things like religion, a comprehension of human nature, or moral values that our society has actively spent decades trying to crush. A huge part of Mao's utopia is the society removing the traditions or skills that could stop it. The reason that our ancestors in practically every culture that has ever existed.
That's capitalism, not leftism. That's what I yell at the screen every single time we cover one of these. Every single time.
Has valued tradition in culture so much is that you have to train people for their entire lives to know how to operate in these complex cultural systems so you don't get this outcome. And you can't just flush your culture down the drain for a century and then be surprised when you see consequences like this.
What are you talking about, dog? Who flushed what down the drain? I'm dying, dog.
So aggravating that people just make shit up and that they espouse these theories that everyone else in history would think are utterly psychotic. And then when they have the consequences that would be...
Man, the only way you can think this is if you don't understand how other people at other times thought. You know? Like, oh yeah, all civilizations and all people at all times thought the same, except for the left right now because they're so degenerate. And it's just like, well... It's a lack of curiosity on your own part, both about the ideas on the left and also about the ideas espoused and held by different groups in different places across huge stretches of time. People have had very different ideas about things you take as for granted today. Like, on just about everything. So, like, shut the fuck up, have some humility, and, like, go learn some things. Because when you actually have questions in your heart and you go and follow those questions up and get more information, you can actually learn some really cool new things. Allow yourself to be curious and follow that curiosity.
Be totally self-evident if they were operating within a sane cultural frame. They're totally shocked. The fundamental reality is that we have brought this on ourselves, and we totally deserve what we're about to get. The food where I live...
Wait, is it a civil war? Are we about to get a civil war? Is that what we deserve?
In Texas now is utterly disgusting. It's getting to be a majority of the food in grocery stores, and everywhere I go, the food is bad. It's disgusting where I've thrown up so many times, and I've had my stomach go sick.
What? Dog, go to a doctor. What are you doing? Dog, go to a doctor.
Record this. My right-hand man is currently sick due to food poisoning.
What does that mean? Who is your right-hand man? That's such a... What does that mean? Is this just a man you live with? Like, is it like a employee? Who are you talking about? Why do you guys keep getting sick from food poisoning? Please, just... I'm so concerned.
At this point, I test everything I eat where I'll take a bite and then wait 5 minutes.
Waiting 5 minutes isn't going to help you if you're getting food poisoning. Food poisoning can occur anytime between taking the first bite and like 48 hours. Dog, are you just like drinking like raw milk? Are you just like eating mayo right out of the jar that's been open for like the last year? Like, what are you doing that is getting you sick like this? Let me tell you about bacteria and viruses, son.
reason that people don't notice is that they eat quickly, and the corporations use chemicals to mask the taste. The frost is already eroding their sense of taste. My mom thought this would happen when I was a child, and so she would train me on tasting different levels of food quality. She would give me artisanal German beer as a teen, and she said that it was so that the college beers would be too disgusting for me to drink them. Most people's gut bacteria adjusts to
What? Your mom got you drunk on beers as a teen?
the rotting food, which is really a symbol for all of this. My dad flew down to Texas, and he said he didn't believe me until he saw this food, but it was the most disgusting he had ever seen in the world.
Then go to better restaurants, you stupid bitch. Like we go to this restaurant every Friday. Its food is terrible. Go to a different place. No, this is the one that I'm familiar with. Like, come on, dog. I've been to Texas. I know not all the food in Texas is bad. I know that for a fact. But like, dude, you know, it's kind of on you. Like, learn how to cook in a way that isn't going to give you food poisoning. Like, even if you guys, and this applies to all of you, okay? Learn how to cook some goddamn rice and beans, all right? If you've never cooked anything before, learn how to cook rice and beans. You should be bare minimum able to make one good bean and rice dish, okay? Something that tastes good, not just something that's like you can eat, something that actually tastes good, all right? And like, teach yourself that so that no matter what happens, you guys can eat good all the time. Because there's no reason this man should just be constantly like throwing up and shitting himself at the age of 24 when he lives in Texas and he's wealthy. Like, this is entirely self-inflicted. I don't like beans. Figure out a way to make beans that like are good. My entry to beans was refried beans, which have the exact nutritional value of normal beans. They just have a different texture.
The reason that the food is bad is pure mouse utopia.
Lentils are good too. I've been told this. My next cooking task is going to be incorporating lentils into a sauce.
That the government regulations shut down free farmers, making it exorbitantly expensive to become a new farmer. This means that most farmers now are old and retiring, with no new generation to replace them. America is in the middle of a huge beef shortage, where we have less total cows than 1961, when we had about half the population we currently do. I was talking to a local butcher who told me that due to this
You do know we sell a lot of our beef as an export. He doesn't know that. I don't know why I asked that. I of course he doesn't know that.
Shortage, we're importing beef from Latin America, including countries like Peru, Guatemala, or Venezuela that have little to no quality control.
They literally have better quality meat than US cows. Other countries have better husbandry standards than the United States.
That's why so much of the meat is disgusting now. It feels deeply unfair that this is occurring.
Dog, go buy better meat. Go to a fucking butcher shop. Your problem is you aren't getting like quality cuts of meat. Go buy better cuts of meat. You can't, by the way, like, you could also just, again, butcher shops aren't even that expensive. It's just another stop for you to make, which makes it time intensive, but like, you can get good meat for relatively cheap. And like, this whole doomsaying because the food area you live in Texas sucks and you can't cook, like, that's a skill issue, bro. That's a skill issue for you.
In a first world country.
Oh, you could also go vegan, that's true.
Which is wealthy enough to fix this immediately. The fact that something this bad, this big is happening, and no one is reporting on it should be the canary in the coal mine, that the entire system is really bad, but the authorities are covering it up.
Oh man, we've got a big cow conspiracy. I gotta be honest, I didn't see where this was going.
Number one thing the system should provide is good food. The American food system is also hyper-centralized, supposedly for regulatory reasons, but other countries, including wealthy first world European ones, don't have this, which proves that this is really about power. The centralization of food processes—
it's not about power, it's capitalism. It is the pursuit of profit. Europe regulates its animal industries quite strictly. America does not. And it doesn't do that specifically because of lobbying by these multinational corporations that seek to, escape taxation.
And distributors mean that if a handful go bad, so does the entire country. Even the canned food is bad now, which is a really bad sign. Another thing is that the food industry is largely—
even the canned food is bad right now? Rudyard, did you get botulism? I know it's rare, but did you get botulism, my guy? Is that why you've been pissing and shitting so much? I've never heard of anyone talking about the quality of canned food going down. Canned food equals mass utopia. Of course. It all makes sense now.
Of course!
Staffed by illiterate illegal migrants who might not even understand what they're doing and have no stake in the society or the quality of their work.
Undocumented immigrants might not have an idea of what they're doing when they're working on a farm. I'm pretty sure they have farms in other places. Classic racism, indeed.
Assume that when someone does a job that's very clearly incorrect, where, as an example, my packages often don't arrive now from the mail. If you zoom out on a broader national level, it's the—
my packages don't arrive that often now because of the thieves. Clearly, this is related to undocumented immigrants.
Same failures. The US government is in deadlock. We were already in a bad place where the right and the left were constantly fighting over the US government beforehand. State governments going against the federal authority, government departments going against Trump, and the Senate constantly fighting over politics while not solving anything. Trump has already sent soldiers to stabilize left-wing cities against him multiple times for rioting. We're starting—
Dog, is someone in Minneapolis? Let me just tell you, it's fucking ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. Oh yeah, no. The National Guard was needed to stabilize those cities. No, they weren't needed at all. The protests were non-violent. Like honestly, shockingly non-violent. But no. You don't, guys. If it weren't for the National Guard, America would have ripped itself apart by now. The blue cities would have ripped themselves apart.
A Middle Eastern war that's unpopular with both the left and a lot of the right, which will create a crisis of legitimacy. This war will not be solved cleanly or easily, which means it will keep compounding, while it would not surprise me if America sends ground troops to open up the Straits of Hormuz. There are a few very serious dangers here. For one, the left has already been filibustering any decision.
Yeah, dog, let's put boots on the ground in the country that has one of the largest standing armies in the world. Iran has one of the largest standing armies in the world. That'll go well. Boots on the ground. Secure Hormuz.
In the Senate until Trump backs down.
Wait a minute. A cowspiracy? Hormuz? Guys, it's all coming together.
Of course!
Now there's only one thing that's missing.
Space!
On using ICE to deport illegal immigrants. That's not going to happen since it's the key platform he ran on. The left is also shutting down changes due to the Iran war. Trump is asking for billions of dollars to be sent for this Iran war, while the US is already in some of the worst debt of any era ever in human history. There is no—
Wait, he's punking us.
Now it's reading.
This is one of his alphists.
Yeah, this is one of his alt hisses. It's true. Unfortunately, he went too deep into the altists, and now everything is altist.
No chance we will ever be able to pay this off.
Okay, hats off to you. I'm a new subscriber, and you go live like every night. I applaud your dedication. Thank you, Genetic Memory Farms. I go live every weekday. That's my goal, every weeknight. Though Thursdays, I do a second show earlier in the day called the Transatlantic Call-In Show. So sometimes on Thursdays, I'm wiped from that first show, and I skip the show on Thursday nights. But I'm trying to figure out a schedule where I can keep on doing the nightly show on Thursday too.
Off, and it will destroy our currency sooner or later. A budget crisis caused by a foreign war is what caused both the French Revolution and the English Civil War. As of now, the government...
Almost like the important part isn't necessarily a financial crisis started by a war, but instead the financial crisis. It's almost like financial crises under capitalism have some kind of socioeconomic effect as well. Almost like, when people become discontent with their material conditions, they might rise up to try and affect political change in order to rectify said material conditions.
Government shutdown that
kind of sounds like a problem with capitalism to me, but you know.
Occurred a few months ago hasn't actually been solved, where plenty of federal departments between the IRS, TSA, Air Traffic Control, the Postal Service, and the Department of Defense are not being paid. These are huge and necessary parts of the government. As of now, these are not going to be patched up, and the more Trump pushes for the war, the more he'll alienate coalitions that he could use to fix stuff like this. My predominant concern here is not the war in itself, but the downstream effects. For example, Iran has threatened...
Yeah, look, anime sidekick gal 100%. I honestly do not understand how someone this utterly clueless fool can speak with such confidence. This is literal comedy. Yeah, look, and this is what AI and large language models are trying to take from you, all right? It used to be that the realm of unearned confidence was entirely... possessed by these guys, these weird little guys, these weird fascist little guys who would just talk and talk and talk and, talk as if their word was the word of God. And, they'd expect, like a woman at a club who looked uncomfortable to nod along politely. AI is taking that from us, and we should never let AI put Whatifalthist out of a job. God. Anyway. Yeah, this is Whatifalthist. He is a Gen Z YouTuber that is being groomed as like one of the next generation of big conservative content creators.
And to cut off the Straits of Hormuz, which they surround on 3 sides, while 1/4 of the world's oil supply moves through it. Outside of North America, the price of oil has already skyrocketed. Oil is an inelastic commodity, which means that shifts like this cause huge downstream fluctuations in the price of oil. Oil is the bedrock of the entire global system, where if its price goes up, so does the price of everything. The foods...
Yeah, it's almost like, Donald Trump going to war with Iran was a bad idea.
System is totally dependent on oil prices, which means that the food issues I spoke about are about to get a lot worse. The global system is held together by a shared bluff, which the boomers don't realize how fragile it is, if and when it will all come crashing down. For example, every major country in the world has been going through the most egregious money printing event ever in human history since COVID. The reason it hasn't totally shattered their economies is that everyone...
Wait a minute. So you're showing this graph, and this is the total amount of private credit, but this graph starts in the year 2000, and a lot of the money printing that we're seeing here going up on this red line, that's China, and it really starts going up in like 2004, 2005, and then it just continues to go up for quite a while here. But then you start looking at like 2020 when COVID happened, and like, I'm not actually seeing these massive spikes that he's talking about. In fact, the United States has lower spending for private or lower private credit than it did in 2008. Like, this is completely not proving what you're talking about.
Is so complicit that it all equals out to a shared increase in water pressure. Western Europe and China are against the Iran war, and so if there's a severing of trust, that could destroy the global cartel maintaining this. The American dollar has been stretched to its limits by this money printing, and its confidence is held up by a bluff.
You're right. We must return. We must turn away from fiat currency and return to the real strength of the American dollar. And a lot of people don't realize that it wasn't built on gold, and the name was the clue the entire time. America's original currency. The American doll, her. American girl, doll, her. That's right, we must return to the original arbiter of our currency value, which was the American Girl Doll Corporation and its meticulously fine-crafted dolls. How many Cindy's will that be? How many how many Shanes? Did you read the booklet that comes with her? If you did, this is worth at least 3 Stacys. If you didn't, it's only worth 1. Molly, my daughter.
Epstein and the elite being mass implicated in pedophilia is another variable here, which has caused a massive loss of faith in the ruling regime, which has not yet had serious consequences, but it likely will. Things that important don't lead to nothing. They just take time to work through sometimes. The baby boomers have built their entire right to rule around money and the economy. What happens when that fails? Money could be very
What happens when that fails is pretty straightforward. The people who continue to have money swoop in and buy up all of the rights to things, all of the property, all of the material goods. They buy them up for a song because they have all the money, and basically everyone else has to be spending their money and can't save it. So, like, in an economic depression, what happens is that wealth further consolidates into the hands of even fewer people. You know, it's how you get the world's first trillionaire, you know? Again, the problem here is capitalism, which has an inherent boom-bust cycle.
Close to having no value, and in a world where money is the only thing left after the erasure of every moral value or loyalty, that then means total social collapse. It's really a wonder that the stock market has been stable ever since COVID, while most people have been living in a de facto Great Depression. It's due to manipulation and money printing. The stock market is literally broken since there aren't enough deviators from the group strategies to rebalance it. What happens to ecosystems like that when they haven't been stress tested against their environment is that they totally collapse when put under pressure. All of these things are connected to mean that even an emotional loss of faith in authority could mean a total collapse of civilization. What I've also found is that no country in the world is prepared or...
I mean, like, to a certain extent, like, that's an inarguable premise, which is like, yeah, if everyone collectively stopped doing things because they didn't believe in the validity of, like, government or, you know, the economic system, yeah, everything would stop. You're right. If people stopped doing things, things certainly would stop.
Equipped to deal with this. If you look at Europe or South America or Asia or Africa, all of the industrial countries are having the exact same issues, and all of their elites are complicit in not solving this.
Almost like capitalism is the problem.
This means is that when America, as the global hegemon, has a loss in confidence, it's going to spread everywhere else in the world. Keep in mind...
Yeah, because we're also the, like, lone superpower hegemon on the planet. Our like, everyone else is affected by our politics. It's so unfortunate that I host a show that is global in nature because so many people outside of the United States need to understand what's happening here. Otherwise, like, they just get blindsided by shit that we do here. Like, it sucks. We should be able to be irrelevant. I wish we were.
The final layer of
Is China a superpower? Not quite on par with the United States, but it's on track to be one.
Mouse utopia before the mass killings, with the turn from phase C to phase D, is total stagnation and fossilization. The mouse colony stops doing anything as the mice become spiritually dead and their actions totally hollow. Then, like a switch.
What does that mean? What does it mean for a mouse to have hollow actions? Like, he doesn't stop and explain anything that would have an obvious follow-up question.
The mice start murdering one another as they realize no one will stop them. I don't know how.
Who did the mice think were gonna stop them in the first place? Do the mice have secret little mice cops on a little mice patrol? This is insane. You're insane posting right now.
Or when this will happen. I do know that nothing will stop it, and people will realize that at some point.
He has not been sanity maxing, chat. Spiking my fucking cortisol.
It could start next week for all I know. All we need is a crisis in confidence. Everything else in Mouse Utopia has already occurred except the layer where the mice murder each other. Expecting this to have any other outcome would be insane, while this entire trajectory has already occurred perfectly with what the Mouse Utopia experiment would say. I want to say as a final message that I'm still in the saddle and I'm willing to do whatever it takes so that we live through this. Peace, Rudyard Lynch.
God, that's so bad vibes. That's so bad vibes. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that we all live through this. Again, I do want to point out this video is titled "Things Are Very Bad Now," and the thumbnail reads, "Why my Civil War prediction was delayed. The reality is far worse," which I guess is just the Civil War was delayed and now it's imminent. I guess. I'm looking forward to a third one, which is, comes out 2 years from now. Why my Civil War prediction was delayed again and again. How does a mouse become spiritually dead? Excellent question. Maybe Rudyard's friends in the CIA can answer that for him. That was nuts, dog. And I do have to say, when we hit our next goal, chat, he does have a fresh one out of the oven. The internet is driving us crazy. And again, just have to point out, there's no rhyme or reason to why words are capitalized or not capitalized in that title. So I fully expect some serious psychosis to be on display. So when we hit our next dono goal, we will be getting to it. So anyway, folks, if you got anything out of that, congratulations. Go take some aspirin. It's okay, probably. Not a medical doctor. And also, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about the wild twists and turns in that. I'm still trying to figure out why he brought up the hypothetical of destroying all Jewish people for no reason. That was still very weird. Anyway, folks, get organized, because unfortunately this guy is part of the organizing effort on the right. So, folks, join your local Dems, join your local DSA. If you need help taking your first steps, join our Discord, !Discord, or I believe the links are down below. And reach out to GamerG for help with DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help with your local Dems.
Stuff? I'm fermenting several kilos of super hot chilies, aka enough to decimate the average British town. Sauce is gonna be killer greater than laughing face.
Hell yeah, Twizzy. Thank you for the $5 dono, and I love spicy food. I love it a lot. I made a butter chicken tonight. It is now one of my partner's favorite things for me to make because it's so spicy. I go heavy on that Kashmiri pepper. It's so tasty. Love it. Last but not least, check out ImogeneOlivia.com, folks. Gender euphoric lingerie designed from the ground up for trans femmes, also tested with cis men, cis women, non-binary folks. It is comfortable, sexy lingerie that's non-tucking. ImogeneOlivia.com, link down in the description. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, dating, plenty more. fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard.